Hi, I'm Nicole Collida Davis with NIQ.
Hi, I'm Jenny Bell with Nielsen IQ, and you're listening to the CPG Guys.
Welcome to the CPG Guys podcast. Your hosts, Shri Rajagopalan and Peter V.S. Bond, explore how brands and retailers engage consumers in an increasingly digitally driven world. And now, here are the CPG Guys.
Hello and welcome to the CPG Guys. I'm of course Shri, co-founder and co-host of the CPG Guys, co-founder and partner at Think Blue Consulting. As builders, connectors, and amplifiers, we shape the future of commerce to drive your growth. You can get in touch with me at Shri at thinkblueconsulting.co. That's CO, not COM. Please do listen to my older daughter Ria Raj's music, www.riaraj.com, and a new song, Hot Couture, which has now been out for over 4 weeks. And my younger daughter Lara Raj is a member of the Geffen Records Universal Music Group Cat's Eye, whose new album would have just released by the time of this recording. Check out the hit new single, Gnarly, spelled Gnarly. Joining me today is my fellow co-host, Peter V.S. Bond, and when he's not hosting this podcast, he serves as head of industry and client engagement at Flywheel, the commerce acceleration division of Omnicom. Peter, at the time of this recording, I was at NACDS this weekend. How did you spend time with your daughter this weekend?
This weekend, we did our usual Saturday morning trip to Stu Leonard's. We went to Hammer Barn for all those Bluey fans out there, a.k.a. Lowe's, and got some paint swatches. And then just spent the weekend in the garden.
You know, for those that don't live in the Northeast, while they've heard of Stu Leonard's, they do not know what it is. Take a couple seconds to tell our listeners, what is Stu Leonard's? Why is it so special?
Yeah, I'll do my best given my voice. Stu Leonard's is, they call themselves the world's largest dairy store. I would call them a staples food and beverage retailer. They're not a traditional grocery store. They have the basics. They don't have, like, you're not going to go there and find anchovies. You're not going to go and find shoe polish. You're going to basically find milk, produce, some consumables, meat, things like that. And they're structured like a racetrack as opposed to a series of aisles. So you basically have to walk the entire store to get to the checkout. And there's a lot of children's activities, animatronic buttons you can push, and all sorts of characters dancing. So that's what it is.
If you have young children and you ever visit the Northeast, take a few minutes to make sure to go visit Stu Leonard's. It's really cool. You will thoroughly enjoy it. And before we get to our guest here, let me ask you to consider following us on Apple Podcasts and leave us a rating, because the rating actually tells us how we're doing as a podcast. If you happen to leave us a review, we'll be thankful, because the review actually tells us the quality of the conversations and the guests we're having on the show. And now, of course, over to our main event, a special episode. We're pleased on the CPG Guys today to be joined by two of NielsenIQ's finest leaders that I have met. Jenny Bell, Managing Director, U.S. Global Clients, and Nicole Collida Davis, Managing Director for U.S. National Accounts. Jenny and Nicole, it was a pleasure at the time of this recording to have seen you this past week at NACDS. Hopefully, Palm Beach not only gave you a lot of hard work that I saw you guys do with your clients, but also gave you, at least if nothing else, a few moments of rest and relaxation. Welcome to the CPG Guys. It's a pleasure to have you guys.
Yeah, some great views as well there at the Breakers. It's awesome to be here, Shri and Peter. Thanks for having us. Big fan of the show.
Absolutely. I will say it's nice to be home at the same time, right? It was a phenomenal weekend. Lots of familiar faces, fantastic conversations across the few days. And of course, great to see you as well, Shri, and the team.
Awesome. Welcome again, guys. And at the time of this recording, I'm, of course, in a short-term home in Seoul, Korea. Cat's Eye, my daughter's band, actually releases their second album in less than 18 hours from now. I'm getting a time zone warp, 18 hours to be specific. Big marketing vehicles, machines are spinning, and I hope to be able to see something live as I get up later today. So, of course, your LinkedIn profiles, your company's LinkedIn profiles and company pages will be shared in the digital liner notes of this podcast so that our followers can access it on the go while listening to this episode. So I'm going to jump into my first question here. This is part of a much bigger mission here than we normally do on the CPG Guys, where we keep it purely focused on business. When Jennie, Nicole, and I met up at NECDS, we decided let's talk about something far more important that all of us work on every single day, hour, minute, second of our life, and that is the business of our life. That doesn't mean I won't ask them their everyday business questions, but I'm going to jump in and ask the obvious question first. What does a day in the life of each of you look like? And maybe Jennie, you can go first.
Sure, love to. I'll say that the day in a life has changed over the years, depending on where I am in my phase of my life or how old my kids are, or what particular job I'm jumping into. This morning I started out with a walk. It's luxury that I have a child that drives and can take our kids to school. So my husband and I get some nice time together that we start our day, whether we start the day with a walk, end the day with a walk. Lots of meetings, fantastic engagements now that I'm back at home in the office with the team today. And then tonight we have soccer practice. We have a baseball game where I'm taking a few kids to help out, right, in this village that we have as a team. So lots of activities right now. So the evenings are very, very busy, and I try to sneak in a meal, whether I'm cooking or we go out. I have 3 teenage boys who love to eat, and that is the definition of success as a mom is what I feed them. So that is always a priority. But I will say I don't know what's for dinner tonight.
I would say my mornings are a little more hectic right now. We do not have that luxury of the driver. I have a 2.5-year-old daughter, and so mornings look like getting up pretty early to get in maybe a little bit of email and a look at the day ahead of Bo waking up, getting her ready. I do get the luxury when I'm home, when I'm not traveling, of getting to spend that precious time in the morning, get the morning hugs, the morning smiles, get our daughter ready for preschool and get her out the door. I also have the luxury of a fantastic husband who does a lot of the day-to-day house stuff for me. So he usually gets her out the door. We are a meeting-centric culture, so we spend a lot of time with customers and in internal meetings through most of the day. The evening looks different. It's quiet for me. It's usually a little bit of, a couple hours of quiet time trying to get something toddler friendly on the dinner table is like you said, that's a big mom win, Jennie. So I'm still seeking out those mom wins on a daily basis. I haven't quite cracked that code for toddler life, but that's our quiet time in the household. There's no sports, there's no other activities at this stage in our life, so we get a little time as a family to go for a walk, hang out, play some games, watch some shows, and just be together. And then once bedtime hits, for me, depending on the day of the week and where I'm at in the world, it's a little more of a focus back on my NIQ life to get through the things that I didn't get to in the day and turn around and find a little bit of relaxation at the end of the day before I, head to bed and get ready to do it all again Monday through Friday.
Best thing I heard was, Jennie, you open it up by saying you get a walk every morning, which is absolutely fabulous. I call that me time, and we'll get to that later. But I heard both of you talk about the importance of your children. And Peter and I live by that every single day. I've got 2 daughters, of course. Peter's got one. Peter, my question for you is, are you out of the toddler zone yet?
Well, she's 6 going on 16. So she still loves her Disney and her Harry Potter. So we've got a little while to go on that aspect. But ladies, thank you for joining us today. No, I'm not doing a Demi Moore imitation. I just have a little bit of an infection that I'm recovering from. My question, I'll go back to you, Nicole. I'd love to hear what the term work-life balance means to you. Is balance even a word, or is it more about your arbitrary distribution, and how do you think about that?
Yeah, you said it kind of well. Work-life balance for me looks a little different every day. For me, it's prioritizing the things that matter to me in that day so I can make it work for me and for my family. And on Monday, that looks different than it does on Friday. On Monday, for me, I can give 150%, and I'm all in, and I'm probably at my computer more hours than I'm anywhere else on a Monday. But that allows me by Friday to shut the lid on the laptop and walk away and find that balance on the weekend where I can prioritize the other side of my life, the rest of my life, my time with my family and my friends. So it really does matter kind of the day of the week, and also again the place in the world that I am. Jennie and I both travel quite a bit because we spend our time out with our customers. And so just depending on where I am, that looks a little bit different day in and day out. But I think it's just accepting that work-life balance will change. Some days it's squeezing in some exercise. Some days it's having a glass of wine. And some days it's going to bed an hour earlier than I usually do because I just need it. And finding that prioritization is what works for me.
And Jenny, any thoughts on that one? Like, what do you even see as the definition of work-life balance? Do you have one?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I honestly think it means something different for everyone, right? Where Nicole is right now in her life and where I am, when my children were small or, I didn't travel that much, right? I had the luxury of having my client in my backyard, and our office here and my team here. So I spent a lot of time here locally and was able to be there, right? But on the flip side, I'll say my husband is a key part of this family, and he kind of makes our household run, quite frankly, right? He's the one that's been flexible. And I look at our life now and where we are is, I have a son that's a senior. He's heading off to college at the end of the summer and graduating. And so I'm trying to soak up everything I can, right? Making sure I'm attending the soccer games, making sure I can be at the tennis game, and being, when I'm home and when I'm not traveling, as present as possible. And those family dinners, like I said, right? And that's changed over the years. Sometimes it was, being there in the morning or, having family time as well, and making sure you can be there for all of those critical events. Lots of times I'm not there. And I think that's the balance of ensuring that I know that they have great family they're surrounded by. We have amazing friends that help. And I said it again, it takes a village, and you have to be comfortable with that. And so I think over the years, I've gotten really comfortable, bringing help into the household, but also asking for help. And it's a requirement. So I'm super thankful for the family and friends of my husband that help do that. But I've also gotten comfortable that, every week looks a little bit different, and it's okay that I'm not there for every big moment. But I know my kids are super proud of me too, and know what it takes to work hard and being that balance that you can for your family.
You said something very important, Jenny, which is, as humans, we feel pressure that we have to imitate others or copy others with work-life balance. But what I heard you say is it's going to look different for each person, and they have to define it. Both of you are in different stages of life. Peter and I are in different stages of life with how old our kids are, work-life balance. But the one thing Peter and I agree on work-life balance is we agree on going to baseball games. We had the pleasure of wearing Meta glasses, and which I told you about, and we went to the Cubs Dodgers game at Chicago. That said, Jenny, I'm going to flip this one over to you, which is you mentioned you start your day with a walk. So how do you both bring a sense of balance in your life? You kind of talked about work-life balance, but what is that balance part, and so that you can actually get me time?
Yeah. If my husband listens to this, he's like, every day, Jenny, that's a little aggressive. Okay, so maybe not every day, but I really do try to get in the steps. Before I've been a member at a lot of gyms, and it depends, right? I had to cancel my gym membership 2 years ago because I just started traveling too much. So, it didn't make sense for me. And so the me time has evolved and changed, or making sure that if I am traveling, I'm getting into the gym, right? We have great peer mentors when we're going to team meetings. We'll text each other, do you want to go for a run? Do you want to go for a walk? And so surrounding yourself with people that are also making similar choices, or quite frankly, motivating you, right? If for some reason, if I end up paying more or somebody asks me to do something, I will always say yes. So figuring out what that balance and really what motivates you is really key. And the other is, when you think about traveling or, investing in your family time, it becomes limited, right? Sports can rule your life. It can be that you're traveling, right? Whatever that moment is, really taking quality time and enjoying it. So take the vacation, right? And really enjoy that vacation. And part of it too, I feel like I'm investing in my kids' future and helping them see the world. And those are all priorities and me time that while it's me, it's also making time for my family. because that's what's important to me. So I choose that. Or maybe it's a girls' trip, right? I take an annual girls' trip every year and seeing my girlfriends. I don't see them enough, but one time a year we make the most of it.
I'll tell you, Jenny, my me time is actually, I like cooking. I look at it as therapy. Of course, I take 1.5 hours to cook anything. I make a mess. I do clean up after myself. And the only time the family will let me use the stuffed tops at home is when I say, "Hey, it's my therapy and it's my time," and then they all back away and say, "Have at it, man." What about you, Nicole?
Yeah, actually, specific to that, I think my husband has banned me from cooking big meals in the kitchen because the cleanup has gotten exponential. But I agree with you. It's really peaceful when you can find like something that's so different from what you do every day to spend your time and sort of invest in yourself and your family. I thought about the me time and the balance a little bit differently, or I'll just give a different perspective because I think it does evolve, and me time is few and far between for me right now, given the stage that I'm at. And I'm okay with that. I know it. So, what I find helps me get balance is really finding a confidant or a friend, someone who might not be in a similar stage as me, but is an ear for me and might have experienced this in the past or be going through something different, and having that outlet or that sort of best friend at work that we always talk about is such a value to me. It makes me able to be more present at work. It makes me able to be more present at home, and it allows me to kind of like blur the line a little bit between, it's like I really do like to set a boundary for certain parts of my life so that I can be present in one and not be thinking about the other. But the reality is when I'm at my best is when I can kind of blur that line and find that balance between the two that allows me to be even better in both. And I found that finding that right person at work, that handful of people at work that really are your tribe or your best friends at what you do every day really helps me find that balance and keep myself centered on the things that really are the priorities in our lives.
All right. So, my question is dealing with day-to-day challenges, right? How do you manage that to make sure that you've got those commitments, the must-haves, but you're going to be running up again? I mean, I start my day and all of a sudden there's something in my inbox that throws my whole day off. How do you think about that and making sure that you still honor the commitments you have to get your job done and obviously make sure your family can live their lives? Jenny, you want to start us off?
Yeah, sure. You said it best, Peter. You never know what's going to come at you every single day. And, that's one of the reasons I love what I do. I think every day I wake up and while I have a plan and an agenda and meetings lined in, there might be something that comes in that's exciting or a new opportunity that I get to learn and develop or partner with someone new. The most important thing is, around the evening, I kind of surround myself and get comfortable with what my calendar looks like the next day. Just making sure I know that I've got the critical deliverables planned. I have the key meetings planned and the prep time, right? Should I get into the office additional hour early or log onto email in that hour and do the proper preparation? How you show up and how you prepare is probably one of the most critical pieces in our industry. So it's really important that I take that time and understand what my day looks like. When something blows up or when there's a great new opportunity that we want to go chase, it's exciting. And luckily, we have amazing people that we surround ourselves with. So the biggest part is just relying on your team, right? Rely on your peers to help. Maybe that deadline can get pushed a day, or maybe we need to, you've got a one-on-one with your team, and or a team meeting that you need to push for 3 days. And so when your team and you trust the people that are around you, and we're all in that same space, we really rely on each other and are there for each other. And so it creates this opportunity to evolve and be there and help and guide the way.
Yeah, and I would just add, like, Jenny, you're so right. And I think it sounds sort of counterintuitive, but I think you have to get okay with the fact that you're never going to get 100% of the perceived priorities done in a given day. New stuff comes in, priorities shift, and you have to let go of that idea that you can get all of it done and all of it done perfectly. Maybe you can get 100% done at 80%. Maybe you can get 80% of the list done and the other things get reprioritized for another day. But really releasing some of that control, it's so hard for all of us, but releasing some of that control can really help you manage your day effectively and pivot when all the changes roll in.
Nicole, I got to say, you, me, and Jenny were together about a week or so ago at this point, I guess, and we were talking to a managing director from a fairly large, one of the most important banks that exist. And he was kind of talking, he had just released a report that was on the CPG Guys last Saturday, about a week and a half. At the time of this recording, it was a week and a half ago. And he had said, Wall Street CEOs, CPG brand board members and leaders, you need to take down your EPS forecast. And it made me think of how much we stress about getting to the exact penny on the EPS and the dividend and all the downstream pressure and stress we put on ourselves and the people we surround about us. And Jenny, you said something very important. If we don't answer something immediately with the pressure we create for ourselves and unfortunately raise our cortisol levels, or if we're 5 minutes late for a meeting, the stress we create for ourselves and people around us, totally unnecessary. Life's going to do perfectly fine. Oxygen is still going to be available in the air. Water is going to be flowing through the pipes, and gasoline powered and electric powered cars are still going to be moving at 60 miles an hour, following speed limits all across the country. So I think one valuable thing, especially the more tenured you get in your life and career, is the importance of that life piece and that remembering that should prioritize everything we do at work. Now, of course, you can look at me and say, hey, man, you're an entrepreneur, you have choice. But I'll tell you, this is the first time I've had the clarity of mind to realize I should have acted that way 30 years on the career, and I didn't. And I wonder, not just myself, how many other people I dragged down in the process in their personal lives, for which I'm on a mission to fix that. So let me remind our audience, I am speaking to Jennie Bell and Nicole Collida Davis from NielsenIQ on this fun special episode, Life as a CPG Mom. So let me start with you, Nicole. I know you are on the road a heck of a lot, like me and Peter and me. Travel is just a way of life. Sometimes you are on a call or a meeting or get into Avis car rental at midnight and checking into a hotel at 1 a.m. and landing late by 3 hours, missing flights. So how do you deal with all that stress and the away from home business travel? How do you stay in touch with your little one and your spouse?
Yeah, I've gotten really good at recording videos to send home. Honestly, truly, you can do that from anywhere. You can sit in a seat.
Here's the fun part, Nicole. Peter does that all the time. Sometimes I feature in his video to his daughter when we're together. When my kids were little, there was no concept of smartphone video sharing or FaceTime.
It's wild. It's wild what you can do. But the crazy thing too is I have to accept that sometimes my need to see my family might be outweighed by their need for peace and quiet at home. We just had a couple weeks ago, I was on the road and I sent home a video. It was a long trip for me. I was going to be gone for a while. I sent a video home at the beginning of the trip, and it really disrupted the household. It sent my daughter into a tailspin because she didn't know where mom was or why I wasn't there. She went crying into preschool that morning. It made the morning tough on my husband, who was trying to manage a bunch of priorities. So I think part of it is recognizing that when I'm in the moment with my family, I can be there and with them. And when I'm not, sometimes they need me to not be. They need me to step away so that they can run the household kind of successfully as well. So the disruption is hard, especially when I think it's hard on anyone to have travel disruption and not be able to operate in the way you want to operate. But I think especially if you're committed to trying to get home for a friend, for a family member, for a child, that travel disruption, man, it just wreaks havoc on your schedule. So you try to roll with the punches. Jenny and I were traveling home from NACDS last night and running to catch delayed. We were delayed out of Palm Beach. We were running to catch connections, and thankfully we both made it home. And so you take it as a win when you get it, and you know that it's not always going to go your way, and you just try to manage as best you can.
And then Jenny, we meet often on the road, we're in business settings. What about you, where you open this conversation saying you're in a different stage of life, you've got children that are growing up to be soon to be fine adults in the world. How do you stay connected and just keep that connection every single day?
Yeah, it's as I was listening to Nicole, it's such a I remember when I was in that stage, right? Like yesterday, and the same thing. My husband's like, we're fine, we're fine. I don't want to disrupt, the way that things are happening and the way that he manages the household when I'm not there. But it's funny when I'm to the point now where I text the kids. I should snap them because that's their way of communicating, right? I text them and no one responds. Or I call and I get a call, "Hey mom, how you doing? Hey, how was your day?" Right? And short answers. They try to act enthused to hear from me. But the reality is, they're great independent young men. And there's a lot going on in their lives. They're fulfilled with their friends. They're off to the next, neighborhood baseball game or wiffle ball in the backyard. And sometimes it's now where the tables are turned. I have to be comfortable with them not needing me as much. And it took me a little while to realize that when I'm traveling and they don't text me to say, "How was your day, mom?" that's okay. So I try to check in. I send videos of where I'm staying. So I'm like, "Oh, I'm in this amazing hotel," and I'll send a video. I don't know if they do, and it's fun to make the connection that I'm in a new city, or I'm sending pictures of of something, or a concert going on, or an amazing um, we were just in Toronto as an example, right? And going to Canada and sending some pictures home there. So I try to bring them along the experience, but it's also been a transition that they're fairly independent, and I've had to adjust to that.
Rumor has it, Jenny, you may have done a little curling when you were up in Toronto. It looked like there was some fun being had at the leadership meeting. I know my daughter needs me every day because when we get in the car and I drive her to school, all of a sudden I see the hand sticking into the front seat with the iPad. And she's basically saying, "Dad, connect me to your hotspot."
Yes,
Yes.
you're the
Oh
tech
well,
guy.
I will, if that's what I get, I'll take it, And usually when I call out her name and she doesn't respond, I get a little louder. Her first reaction when she finally gets out of her trance is to say, "I love you, Daddy." I'm like, oh, that just melts my heart. I'm always gonna cave. So
I got to give him credit though, he had to step out briefly for a second here. He didn't hear me mention it. I love, love, love that every single night he makes it a priority when I see him on the road to create a video for his daughter and send it to her. And her mom shows it to her. And as I mentioned, I've featured on a couple of those from time to time.
Yeah, it's my way of staying connected and sharing with her. We were in Chicago, as we mentioned last week, and that's where my daughter was born. And what I did is I actually stood in front of the hospital where Nadia came into this world and shot her a little video, and it meant a lot to me. I was the one all misty-eyed, and greatest day in my life was the day she arrived. But anyhow, so let's talk a little bit about vacation, right? I want to
Love
hear
the
your
air
side.
quotes
I know.
today.
What is vacation? For me, I I get up early. I go do store walks to see what's new in retail. I'm always talking to Shri when I'm on vacation. I don't know what it to me, I take time, but it's really hard for me to turn it off. It's much easier for me to turn off my flywheel avatar than it is to turn off my CPG guys. I think it's because it's a part of what I'm doing. So I would love to hear how you think about vacation time.
Yeah, I maybe I'll jump in. I think I had a pretty big reset this year, honestly, in how I think about vacation time. I needed to take some time away for some procedures, all very preventative, but it took me out of the game for a little bit. And to say I was stressed about that is like the biggest understatement of 2025. I didn't honestly know how I was going to manage stepping away from the business, and I had fantastic friends and coaches like Jennie and like our friend Steve, who said, like, look, health is number one. You have to step away. And it took me resetting and realizing, hey, I don't have to do everything. Things will still get done. Of course, I feel like, we all do that. I can do it better than anyone else can do it, but trusting that me stepping away is a chance for someone else to learn and grow and do something effectively. So I've been trying to really have that same mindset when it comes to vacation. This is, it's only the end of April, so there hasn't been a ton of time here, but I'm trying to keep that mindset to say, like, vacation is an investment in coming back better than I was before, and also an investment in letting my fantastic leaders manage through situations that they might not have the opportunity to manage through on a regular basis. So for me now, vacation looks like, if I were gone for a week, it's probably a lot of checking in to make sure there's no absolute fire drills, but it's also putting the phone in the drawer and telling my team, hey, here's my personal number. If you have an issue, call me, text me, I'm here, but I'm not going to monitor every single thing that you're doing, because you got this and you can go do it on your own.
Well, I'll tell you this, if I tried to put the phone in the drawer, Shri would send a team to my house to try and find out what had happened to me. My office, they wouldn't care. They do exactly what you suggested. Shri, he would send out a search crew. That's what I think.
That's great. That's great.
Jennie?
Fortunately, he is right. Or fortunately, he's right. But Jennie, what is vacation to you?
I really cherish vacations because it's quality time that I get to spend with the boys. We during COVID, we started skiing as a family. We just went up to a little Perfect North that's about 25 minutes from our house, got a membership, and we really fell in love with it, right? But when you go skiing, you are on the mountain. You are checked in from the minute you wake up, preparing for all the craziness that it takes to get ready for that sport. And then you're skiing until 3 and 4, and hopefully enjoying a nice beer when you get off the slopes. And when I get back at night, I'll check, make sure everything's in place. But the days can sometimes get packed, and so I know that at different vacation periods throughout the year, okay, this is a 3-day getaway, and I know that I'm going to be out of pocket a bit. So I make sure I prepare the team. We're thinking about the right leaders to engage, the right experience to engage in the places that, like Nicole said, it's a great opportunity for your team to step up and into that. And so I think there's been a lot of experience gained from us leaders being out of the office and giving people, the chance to shine and step in for you. And sometimes that's the biggest gift and recognition you can provide people. So being really comfortable with that, and quite frankly, encouraging it, and asking folks and having that opportunity.
That's it, Jennie. Like, if we're not taking vacation, how can we ever expect our teams to get away? And everybody needs that reset. And we have to set the example that the world will keep turning if we go skiing for a couple of days.
Exactly.
Listening to you both, I have fond memories of the time we invested with the kids on vacations. Fortunately, when our kids were younger, there was no smartphones for distractions.
Yeah.
Or it was too early in the journey of smartphones to engage you 24/7. We've traveled the world, all over the world with kids, and they remember many of those moments to the day, including how my younger one would absolutely hate doing tourist activities and going in and out of monuments and buildings, while my older one absolutely loved it, including her absolute passion for reading books to the day, which means we had to visit libraries when they were younger, absolute opposite ends. And of course, walking in Venice was special to the day. We have pictures we have kept forever. And so vacations look very different for me now. I take time off now. I'm going to usually see my kids performing somewhere. All right, so vacations, getaways, they all matter, of course. Hopefully, those listening in understand the importance of it. The most important thing I'll always advocate for is when you have 5 minutes with somebody, give them your presence. Don't be distracted on the smartphone. Much more valuable than 45 minutes of distraction. Now, ladies, I have a prize question for both of you. You are obviously in very large leadership roles, not just touching the people in your teams you work with, but you're touching the industry in very meaningful ways. So let's talk that world of business leaders you two are. How do you practice wellness and balance in business with your people, etc.? And what do you learn in your own lives, in your day-to-day job when it comes to just the wellness aspects?
Well, I'll kick us off here. So I'm a people leader. One of the things that I love about what I do and who I support is the client relationships and the relationships I have across Nielsen IQ, and that's with my team. So really trying to spend one-on-one time, working with people, coaching, ideating, innovating together, right? Some of the best ideas happen in, just in a text of, hey, do you have a quick minute? I have a question for you. A lot of that is not planned, right? But a lot of it is. And so the wellness piece of that is just making sure that you're really available. And so, Shri, you just said, right, turn off the smartphone, really being present when you're in a meeting, being there for someone, in the good, but also when it's challenging. That's when people need us most. And, that's the world is changing. There's so much going on right now. Different personal stages that people have in their life as well. Maybe they have a new baby or a young toddler. Or maybe where I am, I have to leave at 5 o'clock, for that sports game, and that's okay. So helping understand and being there wherever anyone in is their life is something that I really strive to think about and be very intentional about.
We did not plan this, Sri, but I feel the exact same way. I just will build on what Jennie was saying. Like Jennie, the best part of my day is when I get one-on-one time with my team or with my customers, and I can spend that time, the 5 minutes up front. How are you? How was that game last night? How's your dog doing today? I heard you weren't feeling well yesterday. Just that connection that you can try to build with someone goes so far. And for me, a big part of it is trying to meet that person where they are. So Jennie and I are talking about our experiences as moms, but there's a lot of dads out there. There's a lot of pet parents, a lot of friends, a lot of caregivers for their own parents or siblings, and everyone's got something going on in their life. And I think I've seen a lot of people say, well, that person's thing is bigger than mine. I'll work the extra hours or I'll, take on the thing. And it's really trying to make sure that you understand whatever the pressure is for everyone at that point of their life that they're in, and you really meet them there to coach through that, and or just listen, just be an ear. I talked earlier about needing that friend or that ear, just to be an ear. I think that the highest compliment that I've ever received from a member of my team is, hey, Nicole, you were really available. I don't know how you do it, but you always find time. To me, there is nothing better, no better praise that I can get from a team member than just being able to be there and really engage with them and meet them where they're at, wherever that may be.
All right. So let me
Peter, you know
close.
what? Before you go to the last one, one thing you and I don't do is we don't ask each other this question, right? So, Peter, the people that you work with, how do you practice wellness every day?
What do I do? My greatest wellness is just the private time I have with my daughter, being able to just ask her how her day went, to offer advice, to celebrate the things that mean the most to her. That to me is a golden part of me feeling better. But it's also, acknowledging when I've got issues and talking to the people who matter the most to me, and being able to express that. And it's no surprise I have a therapist, and I talk to my therapist and work through my issues. And I think being able to talk to anyone, whether it's a family member, a relative, a good friend, or a therapist, is something that keeps us all healthy.
What I try to do with the people that I work with every day when it comes to wellness is, no matter who I'm with and what the meeting might be, I always remind people something that I deeply believe in, and something I could have always done a better job at as my career grew, which is the importance of your loved ones. Loved ones can take different definitions for people. It could be a pet, could be kids, could be a spouse, could be a partner, could be friends, just or parents. Find that moment in your life to take a few for your loved ones. It could be a call, an email, a text. A text can change or brighten someone's day in ways that cannot even be described. With that, I'll hand it over to you, Peter, to close us out on the last question.
Yeah. So I guess my last, I'll start with you, Jennie, is advice you give to other CPG parents listening to this episode who suffer from the same kind of work conditions that we do, busy travel schedules and deadlines? What are your basic advices for making the most and making sure that you have the time you need to get your personal life addressed?
Throughout different phases of my career or maybe my personal life, there's 2 points. And the first I've already mentioned is it takes a village. My neighbor across the street, her husband's a pilot. She travels. She texted me this morning, "Hey, can you take George to the baseball game?" Absolutely, right? Do we text her when we're not both home or we have another child and I'm out of town, right, to get to multiple sporting events? Absolutely. And make sure you have that village, right? And if you don't, create it, right? Create your friend network, create your family network, and really take advantage of it because you can't do. And if you need help with the grass mowing, or that's okay, right? My husband loves to mow the grass, but I'm always, but he does do it. And I'm like, why don't you get somebody to help you? No, 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 it's my me time, right? That's his me time, is cutting the grass. So just reminding yourself, right? Get the balance in your life, and it's okay to ask for help. The second thing I like to say is there's a roller coaster, right? The career roller coaster. And every roller coaster has, it climbs, it climbs, it climbs, it hits the peak. And you can't stay at the peak forever. You have to come down on that peak at some point. So, if you're racing or you're working really hard on a second hat job, or maybe you really want to get this promotion that you're going after, or you just got a promotion, or you have a huge opportunity or a really big deadline, make sure that you take the time to come down on that roller coaster, right? And so you can climb up the next time, because if you stay at that, you're going to drop off and kind of hit the bottom. And so it's just a reminder that everything goes up, has to come down, and create that cycle over and over again to ensure you can create that balance, wherever you're chasing whatever's ahead of you and what's next.
Nicole?
That's such a good one. I just want to add, Jennie, like, I'm thinking of a peer of ours who constantly says, we're running sprints. We can't run a marathon. You have to take the time to run the sprint and stop. The biggest piece of advice I would give is set priorities that are right for you right now. So Jennie said, maybe you're chasing a promotion. Set priorities that align to that. If that's your North Star for right now, if your North Star is making sure you get a somewhat healthy meal on the table for your kiddo that evening, like, set priorities that align to that. For me personally, it's thinking about releasing myself from that expectation that everything is going to be perfect. I'm laughing because I can literally hear my dog in the other room spilling his bowl of food everywhere because he's probably frustrated about something. And you know what? It's going to sit there probably until tonight because there's a million other things going on. So just releasing yourself from that expectation of perfection. Set priorities that are really right for you for right now. We always want to stretch, just by nature of our roles, we want to push ourselves. But pushing yourself can really result in a feeling of dissatisfaction, or like you're letting yourself down. So push yourself, but set priorities that are right for right now, so you can really go and find successes and feel good, and let the rest of it go. Let the dog food sit, let the bathroom go unclean. It'll be there tomorrow, and you'll be able to chase it and feel better at the end of the day, as a whole person, right? Both at work and at home.
Well said, Nicole. Letting go is one of the hardest things to do, but also one of the most important things to do. So let me thank you both, Nicole and Jennie, for joining Peter and me on the CPG Guys today for this special and important episode on the purpose of life and mission of life.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure. Thank you guys for setting the stage for this conversation. I think it's an important one. So thank you.
It's super important. And I feel really honored that Jennie and I got the chance to represent our perspectives and weigh in a little on life. Thank you, Peter and Sri.
Yeah, I still remember when we were having dinner together just about a week or so ago, we came up with this idea, and I'm like, I'm not going to wait. I want to get this done and released as soon as possible. So let me remind our listeners, you can find all of our content by simply going to a web browser and typing cpgguys.com as the URL. If you or someone you know has something to contribute to this ongoing discussion on the CPG Guys, please drop us a line at contact@cpgguys.com. Again, that email address is contact@cpgguys.com. To our audience, thank you for the clicks, likes, comments, DMs, meeting us at trade shows, coming to our events, recording episodes with us. We are always grateful to you. To our sponsors, the show doesn't exist without you. You work with us all year, and we're grateful to have you as our partner. Thank you so much. That's a wrap of this episode of the CPG Guys. See you soon.
The content in this podcast episode is provided for general informational purposes only. By listening to our episode, you understand that no information contained in this episode should be construed as advice from CPG Guys LLC or the individual author, hosts, or guests, nor is it intended to be a substitute for research on any subject matter. Reference to any specific product or entity does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation by CPG Guys LLC. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. The views expressed by CPG Guys LLC do not represent the views of their employers or the entity they represent. CPG Guys LLC expressly disclaims any and all liability or responsibility for any direct, indirect, incidental, special, consequential, or other damages arising out of any individual's use of, reference to, or inability to use this podcast or the information we present in this podcast.